Hi guys, Ed Leeming here with MogPod Gaming, and I'll be commenting for this exciting finals match of the MogPod Gaming's Online League 2019 finals match between Sascha and Nicolas. So the match today will be a best of 3 in the 2-deck format, basically meaning that Sascha's deck A will versus Nicolas's deck A, and then deck B will versus deck B, and then in the third match, assuming it goes to a third match, the 2 losing decks will verse to be the deciding match there. Just bear in mind that these matches don't include the Opus IX cards, as the Online League was played during the Opus VIII meta, and these sort of finals happened not long after release, so it's kind of moving on to that. But anyway, without further ado, looks like we're ready to start here. So let's get this underway. So the deck list should be in the description of the video, but also Sascha will be playing an Ice Lightning sort of tempo aggro deck, which runs like FFL and Allura and Genesis, so sort of all those good cards. And Nicolas is playing a Mono Wind Yuri deck with a sneaky Veritas, and it's always nice to see that one as well. So let's just see how the opening hands go. So we've actually got this footage from Sascha, so it's going to be all from his perspective, so we're going to see what's in his hand and what kind of decisions he's making, but unfortunately we don't have a good grasp of what Nicolas is going to be doing, so I'll be kind of giving you a one-sided commentary, so to speak. But looking at the opening hand, I can't imagine if Sascha will want to keep that. He's got a pseudo kind of first turn search for an Allure, which is okay, but yeah, that's not the best kind of way to start for his deck. Looking at that next hand, that's a bit better. I mean, he's going to have to keep it now because he's already mulliganed. Looks like his opponent is keeping their hand, so they've probably already got a decent backup to play first turn. But at least this hand he can go ahead and play that Sage and grab a Diner back, which kind of gets him a good second turn and also gets him a first turn backup, which is what he wants to do. Yep, exactly what that I thought. He's going to grab that Diner back and go from there. Now basically what I think is going to need to happen is that Sascha's going to want to try and get some early aggression in, because Mono Wind typically needs to try and ramp up its backups first, and if he hasn't got 3 or 4 damage in before Nicolas has got to 5 backups, then he might struggle to really push through those final hits. So that's to see if Nicolas did have that first turn backup like I kind of thought he would. Other than that, I think with all the kind of tempo Dolphex that Sascha's playing, so he's got Rammers, he's got Genesis, he's got Albers, I think it's going to be a case of if he can push through like the Strollers and things that come out early as well, and then Nicolas is going to be looking for just get heaps of value out of his plays, so kind of being as efficient as he can with his backups and being as efficient as he can with his forwards, just so he can kind of put up a decent wall to kind of block off Sascha's attempts to try and push through. So I suspect looking at that his next draw, he's probably going to smash down that Allure and try and get an early damage in. I can't imagine him wanting to try and ditch that Garland for the Emperor first, but he might want to try and push himself to 2 backups so he has more options next turn. But we'll see if he does. But for now, he's going to pop down that Allure and take a swing, and hopefully he doesn't hit an EX Burst. That looks like it's safe for now, and I think yeah, he pops down that Emperor so he can get a second backup. His deck probably wants to operate on 3 or 4. Cool, well, let's see if Nicolas can answer that, if he chooses to answer the aggression or to keep going for backups. Yep, Echo down, that's exactly what he wants to be doing as well, getting more backups. It'd be really crazy if he draws like an Illyria or something now, or to ramp up even further. But let's see what he does. He's got plenty of cards in his hand, so he's got lots of choices. Oh, wow. Okay, yep, so Aerith comes in, he gets to activate his 3, and he might be able to pop down a forward or something to answer what's going on, and then Illyria. Okay, well that's turn 2, 5 backups for Mono Wind. That's pretty crazy, and that's exactly what that's like the dream draws, so to speak, of what that deck wants to do, because now as of next turn he can start popping down free Barts and all sorts of crazy stuff. So yeah, or even a Chilinka, which will be useful next turn. Alright, let's see if Sascha gets a good draw. Not a lot of answers there for him. Yeah, a Garland won't do heaps against his opponent, because he's already got the 5 backups out. But it might be the kind of the best play to make at the moment. But for the time being, at the very least, he can start having a crack at some damage. With that allure. So for now, let's see what's going to happen. I'm very interested to know how this Ice Lightning sort of deck has gotten some extra nice tools from Opus 9, because there's a lot of things that can kind of get out of it, which is really useful, like even things like Mind Flayer and stuff like that, which is nice EX burst, which also dulls and keeps that tempo play going, and just having a neutral card like that to play, so you can keep your hands full and keep kind of pushing through pressure, is really nice. Cool. So he's gonna play that Garland, hoping to kind of damage Nicolas for resources over time to kind of keep things going. Which, honestly, with what he drew, that's kind of the best thing he can do instead of sitting on 2 backups doing nothing, because he can't really afford to just sit there doing nothing with it. Oh, wow. So Nicolas is gonna make a play on the Garland trigger, so choosing to use a Diabolus. I can imagine he's looking to maybe shrink that Garland down to 1k and then play that Chilinka he searched for last turn. But it looks like there's some confusion, because it's very important that you declare what you're going to be doing, especially in online play where you can't actually talk to each other very easily without chat. So I think it looks like Sascha's just looking to rewind that kind of whole play and just confirm that he definitely is looking to shrink the Garland. There you go. I think it's kind of that's what the play is, but it's always good to confirm these things, especially in like top level events like this, where like if someone's made a mistake, you can't really don't want to backtrack. So you want to be really clear of what you're doing, especially with modular spells that have multiple effects, to just let them know that this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm resolving this, because otherwise stacks and things can be very, very confusing. But there we go. Looks like it's all been all sorted now. So. Yep, so Garland's been shrunk down. I expect we'll see that Chilinka pop down and finish him off. And then Larrouy getting the dull off the Garland trigger. Yep, that's that 1k or 2k to the board. 1k with the modifier Chilinka goes ahead and gets rid of the Garland, or it should do. And then let's see if Nicolas has an opportunity to play something else as well. Nope, just pass his turn. That's fine. He's still got cards in his hand, and he's got some presence on the board. I'm not sure if he'll want to choose to block the allure, because maybe Sascha can bluff out there being an allure in hand. But looking at what he's drawn, he might choose to go for the Genesis and dull the Chilinka and swing on through, or he could potentially go ahead and play the Diner, getting the Alba back and then using the Alba to rammer the Chilinka, and then give haste, which gives him a good tempo play, which looks like it might be the case of what's happening. I'm not sure about that one though. I kind of think it would be nice to have an extra forward on the board, like Genesis, just to kind of push through and start hurting his hand, because he's got so many backups out and he might need to try and do that a little bit. He could also keep the Shiva for even more pushing, but I'm more than happy to see this play. They're both good plays at the moment. Because at least this way he pushes through 2 damage and gets rid of the Chilinka, which with Alheim on the board, it's kind of important to keep that one away so that he doesn't get the extra value off that using the effect as well. Other than that, what are your thoughts on the new Opus 9 meta? Do you think we're going to be seeing a lot more wind water, as we've already kind of seen in some of the recent tournaments. You know, what is the answer to that? Is the answer just to play more wind water, or is the answer to kind of try play something spicy? But does those spicy decks beat other non-wind water decks? Like you can make plenty of ways to deal with it, but I think it's important to have a good balance. I think right now Fire Ice is a really good, is in a really good place. It's gained some really good consistency tools from the set. I mean, I typically play mono fire, so I don't know anything about deck building, obviously. But I think that's also got some really nice tools of Nail and maybe even the FF14 package. Looks like, yep, he hit a Chaos Walker on the X-Burst, which sucks because he hasn't got any more back forwards in his hand, so that's kind of like a free removal on the Allure. But at least now Nicolas goes to 4 damage, which is exactly where this deck wants to be in terms of pushing for early damage to try and temper them out before they get a chance to build up all their late game plays. Oof, yep, so that's a free Bartz. A free 9k is pretty good. I think at this point with what Sascha's drawn, he can't really do a lot against that. He would have to kind of swing into the dino and use the rammer to kind of finish it off. But I think for now it's probably good that he just plays some backups and sits on things for a while. I'm hoping he can draw some sort of cards later on to kind of allow him to push some damage through. Alright, let's see what Nicolas has to answer for. I can't imagine him being afraid to attack with the Bartz at this point, because he probably has other things to play. So, yep, Yuri is a strong card to get as well. Yeah, he ditched all his cards from hand, so he's leaving himself the ability to use Yuri twice. And yeah, I'm surprised he didn't attack with that one still, with the Bartz. And Sascha pulling 2 snows when you've already got a lightning on the board, which is a terrible thing to see. You really want to see that snow first so you can get the lightning from the deck for a really good efficiency play. Any card that searches for a backup and puts it into play is amazing, and any card that searches for a backup, especially if it's a backup or anything really searching backups, is really, really strong. But it sucks when you get your targets out before you've even had a chance to use the thing that searches for it. Yep, and Neri just going ahead and deciding just to kill Dinah because it's basically a free kill at this point, so I'm not sure why you wouldn't want to do it. Now looking at Sascha's deck list, he's playing a lot of forwards, so he's really looking to kind of push through damage through that way, and he hasn't really got heaps of summons, so to speak, to kind of support that. So I think looking at the board state right now, it's looking pretty difficult for Sascha. He needs to get some really good draws and really good things coming out, because yeah, Nicolas has got 5 backups and 2 very, very important forwards on the board. But in saying that, he might not choose to use the Yuri because he might want to keep a activation up. Yeah. And now just popping down a Stroller, he's advancing his board state even more and kind of preventing Sascha from making any big plays. And then Sascha choosing to keep building up his backup line. He needs to start thinking about the end game now. Like his opponent's gotten exactly where he wants to be in terms of the backups and the forwards he has. So he's got to start thinking of an alternate game plan. I completely forgot about that mask searching for Diana and Alba. I think that's probably a good reason why he has elected to go this sort of combination, because it's a good way to use that card, which I hadn't even thought about, That's really good. And going ahead and grabbing the Dinah and playing it and getting the Alba to hand. But see, I'm not too sure getting that Alba down is definitely the best thing to do. I mean, he's going to pop down anyway, but he gets to dull the Astrola and Yuri, but the Yuri can respond by dulling the Diner. I mean, it does push him an extra damage through because Alba will gain haste and untargetable, but I mean, at this point, that's kind of what he's going to try and do. He's looking to maybe next turn use that Shiva or the Rammer to push the next sort of 2 damage through. But Nicolas just kind of contemplating what he wants to do. He might choose to draw a card off the Yuri, or he might choose to dull and freeze the Diana. Or, yeah, he goes ahead and... Is that looking like cancelling the Alba effect? Yeah, so he cancels the Alba effect, so now there's a... Alba no longer has haste because there's not 2 dull forwards on the field. But if he goes ahead and uses the Yuri before Sascha goes to combat phase, then the Alba would gain haste. So most likely at this point, all Sascha can do is pass on, and then before he finishes up, Nicolas will probably draw a card. Or maybe dull and freeze the Alba. Or, sorry, the Diner. There you go. So opts to draw a card. So that's probably a good thing to do. At this point now he's in a good position for resources, and he's got 6 cards in hand, and 5 backups up, and plenty of options for him. So he can probably start making a very, very wide board. I can't imagine Ice Lightning has too many ways of dealing with that kind of wide board. Normally you'd be seeing things like maybe the running Azalera or maybe a Sneaky Sin. But looking at Sascha's lists, I'm not seeing anything in there which can wipe a wide board, apart from maybe a lot of freeze effects like Cocytus or Jill. But for now it looks like he's choosing to 2k the Alba, and he'll probably finish off with the Yuri dueling. Oh no. Going for a Shara, yep, so that's dealing 3k to Alba. And yep, going down the Phoenix. The Phoenix goes and deals 5,000 to all Sascha's forwards, which finishes off the Dino and the Alba. And the Alba doesn't have any protection because nothing's dull yet, and it couldn't have stopped it anyway because it's a blanket effect. So now it's looking like Nicolas is in a really, really solid position. And yeah, Nicolas also used the extra effect on Venus, so he got to activate all his stuff, which is pretty good. Looking like maybe he's saving up his resources to have, maybe he's got a Diabolus in hand or something to play afterwards. But Nicolas pushes through with the Barts and hits a Jill Nabat. That's good, so he gets to freeze 2 of the forwards, and yep, freezing the Yuri is not bad because then it might stop him from getting another attack through. That's pretty lucky. Yeah, it's definitely a good skill to have to hit EX bursts. Right, you gotta get good, right? Cool, and a Moogle is a nice, just a free thing to play. Get yourself another forward down, and now Sascha's staring down a lethal board at the moment. So. Looking at that, I mean, he's got a couple of things he could do. He could, playing the Vein would definitely negate the Fina. That's going to stay dulled and not activate during his turns. There may have been the option to play the Jill and Ashiva to freeze some more things and try and keep himself alive for turn, but at the moment, how he's looking at things, at least that Vein keeps the Barts and Fina off the board until he's gone away. But realistically, Nicolas can just start, killing things off. Either he could just dull and freeze the Vein and push through with all his other forwards. Well, at the moment, so he chooses a 2-ping, and yeah, Barbrisha. That will definitely kill the Vein off. Now I think we're looking at a situation where Sascha's really far behind. He's going up to 5 this turn, and staring down 6 forwards. definitely not how the deck wants to be operating. I think Nicolas getting those 5 win backups real early was, it was so strong and so quick. Okay, that's such a good, actually probably the best thing he could have drawn then, because at least now he can play it. He gets to kill off the Yuri and gets 2 forwards on the board. He could probably also potentially play the Jill to keep Bartz and Fina down for an extra turn, so that at least gives him a bit of time to try and find some cards and find some answers. But even then, I think it looks like it's going to be a stall, because yeah, both Alcid and Rigdio are too small to kind of have an impact, but this is definitely probably the better thing he could have gotten to try and get a couple of turns out. Yep, so he's opting to go the Alcid, go the Rigdio, finishing off the Yuri, while Nicolas hasn't got the capacity to dull it, because his backups are down. He doesn't have the option to, normally if you have 2 backups up, you could just dull the Yuri in response, and then you'd completely avoid the effects of the Alcid Rigdio. Apart from that, guys, what have you all been testing out in Opus 9? I know I've had a lot of fun with especially Fire, Earth, or anything involving Gabranth. Gabranth to me is just a nice consistency card that lets you search out some new tools for those decks. Like you can search out Cam, you can search out Cecil and other things. It's just, I think it's a really impactful card at the moment. I haven't gone down the path of making a solid win ward yet, because I'm trying to avoiding that. But yeah, so he goes and plays the Jill, probably freezing the Fina and Bartz. Yep, the 2 things that are big enough to kind of push through the Alcid and Rigdio without any kind of hassles. Unfortunately, I think the mono wind has Diabolus. He can even draw an Aerith. If he pulls an Aerith, he can activate all his forwards and push lethal that way. So I think there's a lot of answers for Nicolas at the moment and what's going on. It just comes down to what he draws. He's got 4 cards in hand, so there's probably a lot of options for him to get going. But yeah, in terms of Opus 9, I'm really interested to try out that new Rydia, the legend, just because I think it's you can get, if you pull off a 5, 6, or 7 or anything higher kind of summon from your deck, then the value that you gain from it is insane. Like I'm just kind of envisioning like a Bahamut, Raiden, Phoenix kind of deck with probably Earth Lightning maybe, something to try. I'm not sure how that deck operates against Wind Water, which is kind of the thing I'm always kind of gauging against. But okay, wow, yeah, so goes ahead and plays a Vada and a Yuri, and that's a very, very wide board. So go ahead and get the Sarah. This could be a really good opportunity. If he goes ahead and plays that, he gets to dull 1, 2, 4 forwards, up to 4 forwards. But he also needs to try and make it so he can do that and push forward a 3rd damage. So in terms of what he'd have to do, he'd have to try and play the Sarah. He basically needs to play out every card in his hand, which is currently impossible. If he had a bit more resources, he could definitely have pushed through that last chunk of stuff, but right now I don't think that's the case. Yep, but Sascha opting to play the Sarah, he'll get to dull all of Nicolas's forwards, so the Yuri, the Shah, and the Vata will all get dulled. He could probably also dull the Aerith, yep, because of the character. I guess the question is, does Nicolas have... Yep, he has the Aerith special, so doing that, he gets to activate all his forwards, and they can no longer be targeted for the rest of the turn by someone's abilities. So that's the thing with that Aerith. It's a hard card to play outside of mono wind, because it's very hard to kind of ramp up those backups quickly, but once it's on the board and once it's gotten itself out for free, just being able to threaten that kind of protection is really strong against a lot of situations. Unless of course you're versing non-targeted effects like Famfrits or Shintotos or Finas or anything like that. And I kind of feel like that might be putting the nail in the coffin for Sascha. He does have his 5 backups out, but he's staring at a board of 7 forwards, and a lot of them quite sizable, and Yuri's just going to get so much value out next turn, so... Yeah, just having a think, maybe he might be the option to use the Kuja somehow, pulling it back and getting a forward on the board to hopefully try and dull something down, or at least get something to be able to block next turn. But okay, so he's ditched the Kuja so he can play the Rammer on the stack. He might be opting to... Oh, he can probably... Yeah, 7k the Shara. Okay, so he's opting to 7k the Shara and Dullin Yuri. Which is interesting because... the Planet Protector is still on the stack, so that should still be activating all of Nicolas's forwards afterwards. Yeah, and I think Sascha may have forgotten about the Planet Protector on the stack still. That's the problem with when you're playing online, is that you don't get the option to start actually going for those stacks, so you can sometimes forget about what's going on. Yeah, and I think that's game. That's Nicolas is going to turn around and bash face next turn. I think getting those early backups, as Nick said, is just crazy good in that deck because there's so much value to gain out of it. So yep, so Nicolas wins game 1. So moving on to game 2. This is Sascha's playing a mono win deck, which goes to 3 Yuri and all that good value stuff, and Nicolas is playing Ice Water Vikings, as made famous by Matiski, and initially I should say, but for now it's just a very, very strong deck, looking to get some good value out of discards, getting the value out of the Vikings to get out your forwards quickly. Once again, looking at the deck lists, I think the couple of things that Sascha might need to be concerned about is just versing early Garlands again, getting all that value out the Famfrits is always scary, and I think Veritas Renora is definitely something that needs to be top of mind. And for Sascha, he probably, similar to what Nicolas did last game, he really wants to be getting up to 5 backups as soon as possible, so he can get maximum value out of playing free Bards, playing free Vardas, getting Yuri in the board to get all those effects as quick as possible to get all that continuous good value. Alright, so opening hand, Sascha, chooses to mulligan. He wasn't too happy with what he had there. And his second hand at least has Zidane, which can, is just a good card. Pulls things out early, pulls sort of issues before they become issues. And in this matchup, that Alexander's not doing much, so he's probably going to ditch that and the Barts, to get the Illyria down. The Barts really isn't going to do much help at this point in the game right at the get-go, and Alexander hasn't got any monster targets in his opponent's deck, so it's basically at this point just an EX activator backup. Yep, but opting to grab the Chilinka, and that'll probably be a pass turn from there. Okay, Nicolas, do you get some nice backups early? Will we see an Alila Viking first turn? Okay, so yep, first turn Una. That is a great first turn backup, and wow, yep, a Jill. So that completely shuts off Alaheim right from turn 1. That's not something that you want to see, especially if you're playing mono wind Alaheim. Cool. So popping down that Zidane, I think it's probably the best turn 2 you can make, just because it gives you so much knowledge of your opponent's hand. And he'll probably get rid of the Edward. That seems like probably the better choice. I mean, the Renoir essentially wants to be in the break zone anyway for a lot of the time, for those devouts, and the Bran is just... Oh no, yeah, going for the Bran. I guess he wants to stop him getting the Vikings early. And that's fine, and now he's going to go ahead and get a second backup out, which is exactly what he wants to be doing. And now he can push a little bit of early damage with that Zidane. It's basically got his value back now already, and if he gets any damage through, then that's pretty good. And then he's setting himself up for next turn that if his opponent plays a forward to answer taking the free early damage from Zidane, he can basically pop the Euro down and dull and freeze it and keep going a bit aggressive against it. But it looks like his opponent's just going to start building up backups and start getting ready to develop all that value really quickly. Now I can't see if he did get the Renault to break zone, but it's not there yet, but he probably will be discarding it next turn to make sure that Devout's always live, because I think Renault is the best thing to pull back from a Devout. Either that or also like a Genesis to kind of push the damage through, but really what you're trying to do is trying to play a big forward like a Sephiroth or the Veritas, and then use the Devout to trigger to get the Renault out to kind of double the effects. Cool. And one thing I've just thought of is that that Ninja might be the option to go ahead and break the Dual Nabrad at some point, which could maybe bring Alahheim back online later on. So at least he has an answer to that card, which essentially screws around that whole strategy of using his Alahheim to ping things off. I have especially bad memories of that Dual Nabrad because I used to play a lot of fire backups that deal damage on entry, like the Vivi, the Irvines, the Black Waltz, and I'd always, like, people in my locals would just play one or two of those in their ice decks just to kind of say, well, I guess you're not doing that anymore. Worst case, if you see it when you're playing a Fasoya mono water deck and just go, oh, okay, I guess my Fasoya is doing nothing as well. Especially since those two decks don't really have a particular strong way of dealing with Dual Nabrad. But I think anyone who plays Mono Fi gets used to one particular cards, just stuffing over their entire strategy. I mean, I think guys that played earlier, if you ever see an Opus 2 Cecil when you play Mono Fi, you just get real sad, because that just screws your entire game plan around. And let's see if Sascha's going to go ahead and ditch the Alahheim to get a fourth backup out. I think at the moment he's just probably thinking about what his opponent, what his opponent's going to have 5 cards in hand next turn. Does he want to go down to 1 card? Because it's so easy to kind of discard that last card, like an Edward play or something, which he knows he has an Edward in hand. So it's basically saying, I have 1 card left, please discard it for me. So I think for now he's at least giving himself a choice to discard an extra Alahheim down. I don't think he wants to go into top deck mode this early into the match, especially when Nicolas has so many options to ditch out a card or two, or like Sephiroth's, Glaciers, that kind of thing. I don't think he was playing any Sid Olsteins. I better just double check that. No, there's no Sid Olstein, so there's no hard breaks off that, which is good. Alright, so Sascha draws another Alexander and Aerith, which isn't a lot of help. There might be the option at some point to Alexander that Devout, just so he can guarantee that there's not going to be a Renoir replayed in that way. And yeah, looks like Nicolas pulled a Famfrit on the EX burst. I think that's kind of the best time to play a Famfrit is when you don't have any forwards yourself, and hitting on the EX burst is always just crushing, But that's the Dane, got 2 damage through, ripped a card out of his opponent's hand. It's definitely gotten its value already, so he can't be too unhappy about that. Here is where we start seeing scary things happen. Nicolas has 6 cards in hand, 4 backups up. I think there's going to be a lot of things happening the next turn, just because of all that resources you have. And he goes ahead. What's he going to put down? Cool. So yeah, Black Mage. You don't see this one played too often, but he gets to draw 2 cards and discard 1. It's just a filtration card, and it's now cheap forward, which Sascha needs to answer. Because if he doesn't, then he's taken 3 hits basically. The Black Mage has already gained its value, so if it gets any damage through, it's always a plus. Yeah, especially when you're playing cheaper forwards like that. You basically, once you've got your benefit of playing it, if it does anything else like blocking an attack through or getting a damage in, then you're basically happy. Yep, and you go ahead and play the Viking as well. Draws a card. He's still at 5. He's got 5 cards in hand, and he's played two forwards this turn. So that's some incredibly efficient play by Nicolas. And let's see what Sascha gets to answer that. Now, there might be the option just to go ahead and play the Yuri off 2 backups and ditching a card. He can then use it to kind of potentially destroy that Black Mage and then block something else next turn in combat. He could also potentially negate the effect of Viking going to the break zone, so he kind of denies his opponent that card. But I'm not sure if that's the best application of it. Alright, he's going to go ahead and play Alexander. Okay, yep, he's going to choose to target the Devout and break it. Basically seeing if his opponent has an Edward in hand to trigger. He does not. I think he's basically saying, look, I'm happy to take a couple of early hits. I'm just going to keep ruining your efficiency. Which is fine. I think Mono Wind has a pretty good late game against Water Wind, just because of the potential for activations. And that deck does require, Dull Freezing to push some damage through. But now Nicolas is going to get 2 damage through off 2 basically free forwards. So I'm sure he's feeling good about that too. Hitting the Fina. The Fina would have been a pretty good thing to play next turn. And the Bart's getting to activate all his stuff. When there's no value going on there, that's pretty sad, but he has nothing he can play. But he might choose to go ahead and break the Ninja at this point and get rid of the Chill. That might not be a bad idea. It will be putting him down to 3 backups, but then it's putting his Alahheim back online to just maybe shoot the Viking next turn if he plays the Yuri. But let's see what happens now. Also, Nicolas going ahead and playing Renoa, targeting the Viking. He's basically saying, I want to draw some cards. Which is fine. Yeah, he's still keeping himself at a really healthy hand size. And he's still threatening forwards on the board that Sascha needs to answer, or it's going to keep pushing damage through. Going up to 7 cards, I expect, yep, popping in a backup. Getting himself back up to 4. Let's see if Sascha goes ahead and breaks the Jill. Yep, I think he's going to. Oh no, he's just going to choose to break the Renoa. He has the extra CP up, so he might as well just get rid of that forward. He had it there, and it was free activation for Bart, so he might as well make use of the CP that was given to him. And then Sascha just double checking that that Nicolas hasn't got another play to make, maybe another Renoa, which would be funny. Cool. So yep, Sascha picking up Echo. I think that's a very easy choice. Getting it down is his 5th backup. He'll probably choose to maybe activate a backup and draw a card. Yep. Maybe choosing to play Aerith next turn, so Aerith can kind of also Aerith off the card drawn, just so he has an option to block that Viking and the Black Mage easily. Yep, and he's just drawn another backup, which he basically at this point is CP. Unless he chooses to break the Ninja at some point, he can't really play another backup. So I think he's probably going to put that down, discarding the Norse and maybe playing the Aerith for the use. Yep, And now Nicolas no longer has an easy way to push damage through with his smaller forwards. He needs to get a better answer. I kind of suspect they might be seeing a Veritas play right now, just because he's got so many cards in hand and it's just a part of the deck you need to be aware of, especially when you only have one forward. Yep, that's it right there. Now, if this was not an online play, that used would definitely cancel that order ability. That's, you gotta do it. It does absolutely nothing for you, but you just go, ha, look at me, I can cancel your ability. You don't quite get that kind of face-to-face mockery in the online world, but there is definitely a benefit to being able to play for people from all over the world. I'm sure Sascha and Nicolas, unless they both make it to Worlds, wouldn't be able to play each other like this normally. Cool, so hitting a Fina in damage zone, no help there. And now we're looking at Sascha on 4 damage and Nicolas on 2, and both decks are kind of live now. Both decks are where they need to be at. Nicolas has got some, the 4 backups he wants out, and plenty of cards in his hand, and Sascha's got 5 backups ready to go, and looking to maybe get some benefit out of Yuri's or other things. Playing the Moogle, he just wants to get something to block those smaller forwards, and he's probably looking for something else which he can sack to Veritas maybe if he gets rid of that. But he definitely needs to play something this turn because he's got too many cards in his hand. I mean, he can choose to play the Chelinka or the Aerith at this point, or maybe another Y'shtola. But the Chelinka goes and going on the board, and that will at least kill the Viking. Or nope, going for the Aerith instead. At least that way then he can block all those smaller forwards. He's basically going to be taking 1 more to the Veritas next turn. But that's potentially fine. Gives him another turn to try and find some answers. If he can get some sort of like Barts into Chelinka into Yuri next turn, he'll have a lot of options of what he can do, and he'll have a really wide board. But Nicolas also has 7 cards in his hand, so he's done a really good job of keeping a full grip of cards, or a full imaginary grip of cards, being online. So he's always going to have a lot of answers ready to go. But let's see what happens. There might be a Glacier to dull things and damage his hand, or I'm not sure. I think the Water Ice deck in general just has a lot of answers for so many stages of the game. It can especially with Veritas and some other things now, that it can answer early aggro. It can pop down to 3 forwards for days. It has a lot of those big play moves with Renault and Devout. So it's kind of a deck which is really strong at the moment. I think not versus Wind Water in the current climate in Opus 9, just because it naturally draws so many cards, and that deck just basically says, if you want to keep drawing cards, I'm just going to keep milling you, and you're going to lose your library. Cool. So playing the Kuja, opting to dull and freeze the Moogle. I think he's basically saying, oh no, and a Glacier on the Aerith. So that's putting Sascha in a position where he needs to hit a Bartz on the EX Burst now, or something to kind of answer one of those forwards, because he's about to take 3. And that's that could be game if that's the case, but that's what happens. We've got Viking hitting a Maria. We've got the Black Mage hitting the Vada. And that's the Veritas for the game. Cool, so it looks like Nicolas takes it. He comes first in the MogPod Online Gaming League of 2019. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Just bear in mind that you can subscribe, like, and follow us on all social media, like Facebook. We're on YouTube, we're on Twitch, we're on Twitter. And please check out our Patreon page to support the channel even further, or support MogPod even further. Until next time, thank you. Bye.